may have seen by now that last night Donald Trump had a ridiculous and frankly bonkers interview with ABC News, where he couldn't even identify that an obviously photoshopped picture of Abrego Garcia's hand was in fact not real. But more important than that amusing situation are two other things that came out of the interview, which I think are of grave importance both to the current situation in the government and the path going forward in this country. Number one, he admitted that he could easily obtain the return of all the people sent to that El Salvadoran gulag in violation of due process according to a 9-0 Supreme Court decision by simply picking up the phone and making a call. But he refuses to do it, willfully in fact, because for some reason he doesn't like those people on a personal level, which is obviously no basis to violate a court order. But number two, and perhaps more importantly, he's not even in control of his own government. And this was evidenced in fact, and we saw echoes of this in fact, in the Signalgate controversy when we looked through the chat and we could see that he was not even making that most fundamental commander-in-chief presidential decision as to whether to execute military force against the Houthis in Yemen, a foreign country. Instead, he delegated that to a bunch of people in his cabinet to guess at what he actually wanted. Now, that abdication foreshadowed what we saw last night in the interview, where he said that he's not even in control and he's given the lawyers power to basically decide things. So let's watch the video, and then we're going to talk about why that's important for where we are, why the wheels are falling off in the first 100 days, and the path going forward for our country, which is, in fact, quite bleak.
I'm not saying he's a good guy. It's about the rule of law. The order from the Supreme Court stands, sir.
He came into our country illegally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
No.
You see in that video that he admits he's not in control, and the interviewer, props to him for doing a good job, correctly states, wait, the buck stops with you. You're supposed to be the head of the executive branch. Well, the problem is that Donald Trump has hired loyalists and he's pushed out the qualified people through the Doge cuts and firing tens of thousands of federal workers. So what you have is the commander-in-chief who only cares about using the presidency to grift and not govern, enriching himself, enriching his family, and his billionaire friends at the expense of our middle class and the future of this country. And then you have all the governing that's left to idiots and morons like Howard Lutnick and Peter Navarro. So that's the path forward. That's who's in control. And in fact, that's why we are where we are. Not a great way going forward. I can only predict negative things. But hey, people elected Donald Trump and consequences will be had.